Good morning, traders. It's 8 a.m. Chicago time on Thursday, the 2nd of June, 2022. This is episode number 2245. Derivatives trading is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Just a quick mic check for those of you who are here. Just let me know if everything sounds good. It should, but who knows? Things change as the broadcast starts. Let's take a look at today's pre-market summary sheet by Convergent Trading. This morning, mild risk on sentiment as the market reopened at settlement from yesterday and has traded mostly to the upside. We've almost challenged yesterday afternoon's highs, and we're trying to push higher. The overall action in the overnight session and in yesterday's trading were pretty spot on with what was expected and discussed in yesterday's trader bite. Key elements today: the ADP employment change. Again, ADP is a private payroll processing company in the U.S. It's the largest. It puts out this number usually on Wednesday at 8:15 Eastern. But because of the holiday this week, on Monday being Memorial Day, they put the number out this morning. It missed by a lot. The forecast consensus is for 300,000 new jobs. The prior is 202,000. The forecast is 205,000. It came in at 128,000. We saw a spike down and a reversal on that release. This number could, probably, maybe predicts what the unemployment non-farm payroll numbers look like tomorrow morning. But the Challenger job cuts came out at 7:30 Eastern. They came in at 20.7, expected at 26. Those missed as well. And then we got a few more numbers this morning. The unit labor costs came in at 12.6%, running hotter for Q on Q for Q1 final, running hotter than the forecast. 12.6 versus 11.6. Non-farm productivity Q on Q final for Q1 came in at negative 7.3% versus negative 7.5. And then the initial claims came in better at 200,000 versus 214,000. So going forward, we have factory orders, which is a second tier, which is a two-star number. Factory orders expected at 1.3% at 10 o'clock, ex-transports as well. 10:30 we get natty gas. And then at 11 we get Bank of Canada's governor, as well as the crude oil inventories, gasoline stocks, and so on. Lots of numbers there. Fed's Logan speaks at 12 p.m., Fed's Mester at 1 p.m., and then we get the Australian Global Services PMI final for May out of Australia at 7 p.m., the Services PMI final from Japan at 8:30, and home loans at 9:30 this evening. And that wraps up what's expected for the day. Again, tomorrow is a key day, of course. The first Friday of the month brings the U.S. unemployment non-farm payrolls numbers, which are really key numbers for policy and a major measure for how the economy is doing. We also get ISM non-manufacturing tomorrow as well. So these are all kind of in play. The other piece to this, OPEC, namely Saudi Arabia, really has said it would step up supply if the volume let's take a look at what just happened. Microsoft guides saying is updating guidance for Q4 due to unfavorable FX movements in May. Revenue of 51.94 to 52.74 billion versus 52.87 billion. EPS dropped to $2.24 from $2.33. That's Microsoft right there. That just came across. Okay, so we've covered the posture. We've covered what's there. Key earnings: Lululemon after um, after the close. The luxury retail seeing strong stock movement, strong buying there. And then let's take a look. Let's take a look at the multi distribution. Let's look at the ES and what it's doing right now. The ES. Let's take a look at that. The ES right here is basically, oops, need to position the camera. Rushing through things this morning. The ES, there we go. The ES so far has a multi-distribution profile. Has a multi-distribution profile. It has traded 188,000 contracts. The inventory. Let's look at this again. The inventory is 69%. It was a little bit higher earlier. Inventory 69% long. The range is 41 points, still within the expectation. The point of control 41.10. Again, let's flip back and look at Edge Pro X here and what it has done. And you could see that we opened, we spiked lower, and then we pushed higher. We had a bit of a spike at 4 a.m. this morning, Chicago time, and then we're coming back to the prior day settlement. We're basically falling back to settlement so far in the ES on this Microsoft news. Multi-distribution profile on top of yesterday's multi-distribution profile. This is active price discovery, and as discussed yesterday, we expected the market to kind of turn over a little bit, and it did. So if you look at yesterday's expectations, here they are. The expectation yesterday was for because of the way this was balancing on top of each other. The expectation is that it was a resting day on Tuesday, and therefore yesterday we expected to make a move. And I said, and I discussed the fact that it looks like it's making a rounded top, and it's likely to push lower. And this is what it did. It did push lower yesterday. It did kind of complete a rounded top formation. It closed below 4,100 yesterday, and it's likely to repair some of the structure that the poor structure that it had formed on this run up. That's the expectation. I expect us to work ourselves back to 40.15. To be honest with you, at this juncture, the expectation is that attempts higher are likely to be weakish. Until we get back down into the low 4,000s. It's 100 points away, little under 100 points away. Right now, it's very, very attainable even for today. But what we've got is a market that has pushed up very nicely. P shape here, a balance, total balance, and then a bit of a B shape yesterday, bit of a B shape, and that bit of a B shape is likely to fall through to the downside. Although in the order flow yesterday, as I commented quite a bit in the head trader channel on Convergent Trading as it was happening, that the sellers are being absorbed, and it started at 40.80 and worked itself down all the way to 40.72. I could see that the sellers were being absorbed, and it was likely to make a turn. It took forever. I think, let me look at my comments. I think I kept saying things like can't see them. Long scalp, good lifting. So I kept saying that, warning to shorts coming into that 40.80 area. Kept seeing more and more order flow that is absorbing selling. I'd love to show you that in real time, actually. It's very, very interesting to watch. and it just kept squeezing and squeezing and squeezing for about 8 points. And I'm like, man, I'm looking for this to turn up, and then it finally turned up. If we look at it in the active chart, it finally turned up. And it's right here as the market was pushing lower. I could see it trying to absorb a little bit, but it didn't really start to really get into it until right here. And the dots are not showing up because the MBO data was erased as I restarted the platform overnight. But there were a lot of bubbles in these areas, a lot of bubbles, and a big fight. And so I was looking for this thing to come all the way back to 4105, which it did back here. Was stalking a trade between 4105 and 4102. 4102 being the prior day's low, 4105 being the IB low. Was stalking a trade in here with the VWAP to back it up. And then it finally, it wouldn't give up any territory away from the 4105, and then it finally blew through to try to push a little bit higher, and then it closed basically below 4105. Very tough trade on the close yesterday. And since then, this is what it has done. It has basically, opened, drooped down, pushed higher. We had a spike lower, push up, and we had, look at these spikes. You see these spikes here? Lots and lots of spikes. These lows are overlapping bars. It's a drop and a pickup, and we've seen this now for about a month, where there are two big forces pushing in opposite directions, and it causes whiplash, causes a lot of stops, and it's very, very difficult to hold through. You got to be patient through these areas. Once it dropped through here, the 4110 yesterday, which was a key number, by the way, 4110. You see that shelf that it put in right here? 4110 is a carryover from yesterday. Let me show you this chart here in our review segment. And I want to show you where that 4110 came into play. So 4110 is the overnight point of control right now. But really, 4110, if you draw a line across, you'll see support resistance in this area going back a bit. So you could see that, there was a battle here. There was an iceberg at 4110 as we dropped into it. During the day session yesterday, there was quite a bit there. 4110 set up a short on the push through the prior day's low of 4102, reversing the one-time framing up. It set up a short with about 1.5 points of heat on the pullback. That was a pretty decent trade right there, and it set us up for a push down into the gap zone, which was at 40.7950 down to 40.7650, I think, something like that. It set up a push into the gap zone, pretty decent trade there. And then when it came back, you could see the 4110 playing here. Here, we pushed through it. Then it played in here in the overnight session and played right there in the overnight session, played right there, and we are below it. The 4110 is like an inter-day, multi-day LIS line in the sand, and for today's session, it is definitely a number to watch here on the open. Keep an eye on, we're trading a 40.97. Watch the 41.10. In fact, do yourself a favor and go to your charting package, whatever that is, and just draw a line right there. Put a line across the 41.10 just so you can see what that is and be reminded of where it is as the session trades. Okay, so that's the overview. Let's take a look at what's expected for today. Let's pull up the last profile here. Okay, so what's expected for today? Stock zones on, everything on. Here we go. We are trading right here below the 4100 right now. Again, multi-distribution profile. We're on top of a multi-distribution profile from yesterday. The point of control of yesterday is at 4102.75. 4102.75. Currently, the overnight point of control is at 4110, as it indicates here. The expectation this morning is an open auction in range. I'm expecting it to try to extend lower, but I'm expecting it to find support. I'm not expecting it to push very far beyond this 40.90 area. So the 90 here, I'm expecting to come into play. Looking for it to push back and into the 4110, giving us the overnight. So this would give us a break here, would give us the overnight stat. That'll, actually the overnight stat's down here. So we're likely to push into 90. The overnight point of control stat right here. The settlement stat right here. So this is the settlement stat. And then I'm expecting it to try to push that overnight high into 41.25. If you look at your charts from yesterday, 25 was key. 25 was key. And then we have the magnet up here, which we opened at and got stuck at early on. We have the magnet up here at 47. But there's also a zone that I did not record here between 35 and 30. Trying really hard not to wiggle as I write these numbers with a mouse, which carry over from a couple days ago. There was a huge battle in the zone right here from a couple days ago, and I'm expecting that to be tested and breached. But I expect us to hold today's range. Yesterday's range was relatively wide. I'm expecting us to test down as the primary scenario and hold before turning up. The secondary scenario is responsive buying into 4110, closes the prior day's point of control, closes the prior day's settlement, tags the overnight point of control, completes all those stats there. And then I expect it to impulse down, sellers to step in. Again, buyers were very active yesterday to take us through the overnight low, which is at 83.50, giving us the overnight stat. And then we challenge this low from yesterday at 71.50, and we start walking to 40.62 and 50 down here. 50 being the key target down here. About 70 points of range. That would be scenario 2. So what am I going to look for? How the heck do you trade that? What I'm going to look for is the market opens. The market opens, and it attempts. I'm going to look for how it attempts to be responsive. In other words, how does it attempt to push back? How does it attempt to push back to 41.10? If it doesn't take 41.10, it starts to roll over, and we see an acceleration or bigger rotations, I am going to be looking to the short side. I'm going to be looking for areas to lean against to get short. I'm going to be targeting that overnight low. Once the overnight low clears, the next major obstacle is that 74, 71 area, yesterday's low, multiple lows. And if that breaks, that's a runner. And that runner is expected to go to 50. I'm going to try to hold on for 50 and actively managing the trade. By the way, I think today for Convergent members, we have a study hall on active trade management. So it's maybe we'll use the example of this trade. But I'm looking, if it breaks away from the range and it becomes initiative, meaning it starts to initiate a move away from where we've been trading. So this is the point of control the prior day, the point of control yesterday. If it starts to initiate away from here, then that move is likely to be relatively big. And so I'm expecting 50. That's how I trade that. I'm not going to touch this unless we see a clean, clear test at the open that tells me directionally where the market wants to go. Otherwise, I'm just going to stay out of the mud and let it set up and take my time before stepping in. I want to remind you again that we're waiting for factory orders at 10 o'clock, but then it's relatively clear. The calendar is relatively clear for the market to operate on its own, under its own power. Microsoft came in and kind of puked on the market here a little bit, which will likely carry over as a push lower. I expect the market to push lower to resolve this weakish low that it just put in, okay? Hopefully you gained something today. Good luck, and I'll catch you tomorrow morning. Take care. Don't forget, tomorrow's non-farm payrolls and unemployment, a major number to watch. Take care.